admirer of the impeccable credibility, professionalism, and business savviness of BusinessDay. If you really mean business in Nigeria, start your day with BusinessDay.
BusinessDay is West Africa's leading provider of business intelligence and information, delivering premium content across diversified media platforms, including online, mobile, and print. Since its inception in 2001 with a weekly newspaper production, BusinessDay has expanded its reach to provide exclusive content accessible through print, mobile, and online channels. Our premium offerings are further enriched with syndicated content from esteemed sources like the Financial Times, The Economist, and the Harvard Business Review. At BusinessDay, our mission is clear: to be the foremost provider of business and financial content, empowering readers to make informed decisions in Nigeria and Africa. Since our establishment, we have been committed to delivering insightful, relevant, and accurate information about Nigeria's business and finance environment, while contextualizing the impact of global events. We monitor the stock market, analyze the companies driving it, and report on government policies and their economic implications.
For being consistent in organizing these CEO forums for almost the last 14 years, I think this was a commendation, and I think something that will encourage them to continue.
From decoding market trends to dissecting economic shifts, we offer actionable investment ideas and serve as a compass for decision-makers navigating complexity. Beyond headlines, BusinessDay fosters discussions on critical economic issues through impactful conferences and events. These platforms bring industry leaders together to share narratives that drive innovation and spark meaningful dialogues. Our events galvanize connections, bridging the gap between inspiration and achievement. For businesses seeking visibility, our strong digital presence offers unparalleled opportunities, with millions of followers across social media and a dynamic website attracting visitors from within and outside Nigeria. BusinessDay is the ideal platform to boost visibility for your products and services. If you're looking for in-depth analysis and expert opinions on Nigeria and Africa's business landscape, BusinessDay is your guide.
Good morning and welcome to the BDTV Breakfast Show. I am Bethel Ogunjobi.
My name is Elizabeth Musa.
And this is the social listening segment on the BDTV Breakfast Show.
We're talking about the Fly Nigeria Act. Can you give us a background into what this is about?
We are here today on the streets of Lagos, Nigeria, to gather opinion about a pressing issue.
I go look at the cost of petrol.
We get very Nigeria with the suffer.
The income is not really increasing, but the prices of items are increased.
Nothing like service again, no. You only pray for that money to reach you that month.
There's a lot of high pressure, a lot of stress. There's a lot of high targets to be met.
I was quite strict. In my mind, I said, looking for my hand, my picking go spoil.
To allow all banks and all the players in the space.
15% inflation target achievable in 2025.
The command and vision philosophy of both the Chief of Defense Staff, the Chief of Army Staff, and indeed all the service chiefs.
Attention business leaders. Want to make informed decisions? Join the ranks of the best with Premium Business Day. Access in-depth analysis and expert opinions to stay ahead. Subscribe now at premium.businessday.ng and unlock premium content. Plus, you get 50% off your first subscription. Don't miss out. Make smarter choices and seize new opportunities. Sign up now and elevate your business game. Visit premium.businessday.ng today.
Nigeria has lost one of its most prominent and controversial leaders. Former President Muhammadu Buhari has passed away. The news was confirmed by his former aide that Buhari died in a London clinic. He was 82 years old. Muhammadu Buhari served as Nigerian civilian president from 2015 to 2023, after leading the country earlier as the military head of state between 1983 and 1985. Known for his anti-terrorism goals and efforts to rebuild Nigeria's economy, Buhari was both respected and criticized for his leadership style. During his presidency, Buhari focused on restoring national security and expanding Nigeria's agricultural base. He also played a significant role on the international stage, particularly within the African Union and ECOWAS. The former president was survived by his wife, Aisha Buhari, and their children. Rest in peace, Muhammadu Buhari.
I am, of course, a great admirer of the impeccable credibility, professionalism, and business savviness of BusinessDay. If you really mean business in Nigeria, start your day with BusinessDay.
BusinessDay is West Africa's leading provider of business intelligence and information, delivering premium content across diversified media platforms, including online, mobile, and print. Since its inception in 2001 with a weekly newspaper production, BusinessDay has expanded its reach to provide exclusive content accessible through print, mobile, and online channels. Our premium offerings are further enriched with syndicated content from esteemed sources like the Financial Times, The Economist, and the Harvard Business Review. At BusinessDay, our mission is clear: to be the foremost provider of business and financial content, empowering readers to make informed decisions in Nigeria and Africa. Since our establishment, we have been committed to delivering insightful, relevant, and accurate information about Nigeria's business and finance environment, while contextualizing the impact of global events. We monitor the stock market, analyze the companies driving it, and report on government policies and their economic implications.
For being consistent in organizing these CEO forums for almost the last 14 years, I think this was a commendation, and I think something that will encourage them to continue.
From decoding market trends to dissecting economic shifts, we offer actionable investment ideas and serve as a compass for decision makers navigating complexity. Beyond headlines, BusinessDay fosters discussions on critical economic issues through impactful conferences and events. These platforms bring industry leaders together to share narratives that drive innovation and spark meaningful dialogues. Our events galvanize connections, bridging the gap between inspiration and achievement. For businesses seeking visibility, our strong digital presence offers unparalleled opportunities, with millions of followers across social media and a dynamic website attracting visitors from within and outside Nigeria. BusinessDay is the ideal platform to boost visibility for your products and services. If you're looking for in-depth analysis and expert opinions on Nigeria and Africa's business landscape, BusinessDay is your guide.
Good morning and welcome to the BDTV Breakfast Show. I am Bethel Obajabi.
My name is Elizabeth Musa.
And this is the social listening segment on the BDTV Breakfast Show.
We're talking about the Fly Nigeria Act. Can you give us a background into what this is about?
We are here today on the streets of Lagos, Nigeria, to gather opinion about a pressing issue.
I go look at the cost of petrol. We get very Nigeria with the suffer.
The income is not really increasing, but the prices of items are increased.
Nothing like service again, no. You only pray for that money to reach you that month.
There's a lot of high pressure, a lot of stress. There's a lot of high targets to be met.
I was quite strict. In my mind, I said, nothing from my hand, my picking go spoil.
To allow all banks and all the players in the space
15% inflation target achievable in 2025.
The command and vision philosophy of both the Chief of Defense Staff, the Chief of Army Staff, and indeed all the service chiefs.
Attention business leaders. Want to make informed decisions? Join the ranks of the best with Premium Business Day. Access in-depth analysis and expert opinions to stay ahead. Subscribe now at premium.businessday.ng and unlock premium content. Plus, you get 50% off your first subscription. Don't miss out. Make smarter choices and seize new opportunities. Sign up now and elevate your business game. Visit premium.businessday.ng today.
Nigeria has lost one of its most prominent and controversial leaders. Former President Muhammadu Buhari has passed away. The news was confirmed by his former aide that Buhari died in a London clinic. He was 82 years old. Muhammadu Buhari served as Nigerian civilian president from 2015 to 2023, after leading the country earlier as the military head of state between 1983 and 1985. Known for his anti-terrorism goals and efforts to rebuild Nigeria's economy, Buhari was both respected and criticized for his leadership style. During his presidency, Buhari focused on restoring national security and expanding Nigeria's agricultural base. He also played a significant role on the international stage, particularly within the African Union and ECOWAS. The former president was survived by his wife, Aisha Buhari, and their children. Rest in peace, Muhammadu Buhari.
watching Business Day Television.
Insurance to banking, manufacturing to oil and gas, and so it was opportunity for the CEOs to actually examine the various reforms that the current administration of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has embarked upon, has put in place, where they actually acknowledge the fact that some of these reforms are indeed necessary, but weary about setback. And basically what they were talking here is about the fact that it's not just enough to embark on reforms, and but there's also the need to put institutions in place to ensuring that institution policies in place to making sure that the reforms that the president has started are sustained basically. I recall the senior partner at KPMG, I think Tola, Mr. Tola, I can't remember the name. But so it was basically saying that I recall his own very position on this, that policy should be put in place to making sure, even institutions, right? So because when you do some of these reform, because it's not just a case of one administration, coming and they're starting a reform. And for us to be able to actually get the benefit of that reform, to actually bolster the economy, we need to see those reforms, sustained over a period of time, and even possibly from one administration to another. We often have a situation in Nigeria where, because like we've often said, it's not a case of that we don't have policies, or we don't have the right kind of policies that should help us to strengthen the economy. Those policies are always there. We always start reforms, but being able to sustain that reform, being able to ensuring that another administration that will come, maybe after Bola Ahmed Tinubu, another administration that will come will be able to sustain the reform such that at the end of the day, over a long period of time, Nigerians are able to see the benefit of that reform. So it will trickle down, down even to the grassroots. I think that was what the CEOs were actually talking about.
I'm talking about setback. We have setback like insecurity, policy inconsistency, inflation and all. So how can the government come into this setback that we have to boost investors or CEOs' confidence so they can actually, carry on with businesses?
Yeah, like I said, for instance, let's take a look at, for instance, let us look at the reform that has to do with removal of fuel subsidy, right? Then from the other one, maybe the flotation of the naira. You understand? So if another government comes tomorrow and decides that, look, we want to go back to fuel subsidy, which is possible in this country, right? Because as we speak, there's still agitation in some quarters that, look, take us back to where we were. I mean, before the popular subsidy is gone statement that the president made on his inauguration day. There are people who are still telling you today that, look, the president didn't need to remove fuel subsidy because they will argue that's the only thing that the common people or the downtrodden in Nigeria were enjoying, and so you've taken that away and then plunged the nation and the people into hardship. There are people who will tell you that, look, we need to go back to that, right? So the setback is that, look, once we have seen that the policy, the reforms are beginning to bring in some positive, some positive development, that we need to sustain it. Even if a new administration comes, okay, you need to continue. And then, of course, to talk about insecurity, and that's where, this is where the CEOs were also talking about, because yes, we are doing reform. Let's take, for instance, in the agricultural sector. The other time, the president launched tractors to make sure that the agricultural sector is given a boost. But again, that is part of the reform, right? But we need to tackle the issue of insecurity, because even if you bring all the equipment in the world, if you provide all the things that the farmers need to be able to do more as far as agriculture is concerned, maybe do more of farming, and then so we can have enough food for ourselves as a country, and possibly export the excess that we could produce from those agricultural reform. If we do not have the right environment, for instance, if we do not tackle insecurity, the farmers won't be able to go to farm, so at the end of the day, it will amount to nothing. So basically, what the setback, the fear of setback is actually there, but it is also important that government should look at those fears. What are the things that can take us back, such that the benefit of the reform and do not trickle down. And so it is important for government to tackle, whether it is insecurity, you need to tackle that, whether it is putting strong institution in place, such that Mr. A does not leave and Mr. B comes in and begin to reverse those things. So, but if we have strong institution, we know that whether Mr. A is there or whether it is Mr. B, so the institution will drive the reform.
Let's look at the Vanguard newspaper. The headlines we have here says, the lodge of tributes as Buhari dies at 82. Another headline here says, pensions managers fail in enlisting new contributors, resort to poaching. We have another headline on the Vanguard that says, NGE urges government media to prioritize national security, responsible reporting. But I'd like us to talk more about our ex-president Buhari, who died at age 82.
82.
Yeah, may he rest in peace.
Yeah, unfortunately, may he rest in peace. Unfortunately, the news came in yesterday that the former president, a two-time leader, first as the military leader between 1983 and 85, and then of course as a civilian president between 2015 and 2023, is dead. Well, may he rest in peace. But of course, Buhari came across, or will come across to many Nigerians differently. It will be like a case of, the state that we talk about, maybe 7 blind, is it 5 or 7 blind people who went to see how the elephant is. So we talk here and then you can explain. Well, for me, really, he did his best, I would say, especially for me as a young boy in 1983, when he overthrew the elected government of then President Shehu Shagari. I saw what was indeed discipline, and at that time you hardly would throw things on the road. I mean, if you try that, of course you'll be suddenly picked up and then beaten or something. And then, of course, it brought back some orderliness at that time as the military head of state, working together with the then I think Tunde Diagbon, who was his second in command. So we saw that discipline that was seemingly lacking during the Shagari administration, brought back full strength. And Nigerians became aware that, look, you have to behave yourself when you are in a public place, and you don't throw things anyhow on the road. And then maybe, I think it was at that time we started seeing this idea of people queuing up to be able to get anything. And so it was all of that to bring about orderliness, bring about discipline. which was good, and which was the reason why at the time that, after being removed, after he was overthrown by Babangida in 1985, and then all of that time till 2015, when he came back to, of course, before 2015, he's been contesting to become civilian president, and he was never able to get it until they formed a coalition between his own party, CPC, and then ACN, and part of the PDP, and then, of course, I think a part of the APGA, and they came together in 2014, and he emerged as candidate of the APC, and of course he won. So people were really expecting that discipline that we saw in the early 80s, and that, I think that was the reason why people were like, oh, if we have Buhari coming in as so we are going to see what we saw in the early 80s. But to so many people, that didn't quite, that wasn't quite the case when he came in as a civilian president in 2015. So for some people, a bit of disappointment, but for some people, they will say, well, he did his best. By this time, it was very confessed that maybe he wished he was younger and he could have done the things that, so he was already an old man, so there was very little he could do. But in terms of, I know there was also this agitation that if we have President Buhari as a former military, but a general, that would, issue of insecurity will be, tackled and all of that, which was also one of the reasons why people voted for him. People needed him to come. But
during his tenure as president, would you say he was a compassionate president?
Yeah, but I think Buhari, is a compassionate person, I must say. Yeah, he is. He is. But it's just that the issue of insecurity, for instance, when he came in 2015 all the way to 2023, that issue of insecurity that people expected with someone with a military background, they would be able to tackle. We didn't see much of that, unfortunately. But on the whole, he was a good man. I think I would say that Buhari was one person who believed in Nigeria's unity, and he worked to ensure.
And also, I would also say he's a president that had the interest of the citizens at heart.
Yeah, I would say so. Yeah, I would say, he was a president that had the interest of the citizens at heart. I would say so. Perhaps it was one of the reasons why he could not remove fuel subsidy. Whether it was a case of courage or a case of, I think, but he probably felt that it would bring hardship, which is what we are experiencing now. We are talking about. But perhaps, it's one person I would say had the interest of the citizens at heart. But like I said, many people who knew Buhari would describe him differently. There are some who will tell you, he was a sectional leader. There are some
who will not even speak good about him, saying he was a difficult president, he didn't have the interest of the citizens at heart and all that. Maybe because their expectations
were not met.
But were not met. Like the part of the insecurity you talked about, a lot of people were expecting that when it comes into power, it's going to tackle that insecurity. That was a big challenge.
It was a big challenge.
Yes.
And that's what I'm saying. If you go to a place like, if you go to some communities in Benue State, in Taraba State, in the Kaduna State, in Plateau State, and if you ask them, how did Buhari touch your life? They will say, never again. We have such a person as a president, because during his time, we saw a lot of killing. And of course, there was a lot of killing, for instance, in a place like Benue State. If you go to families who lost their loved ones during that time, they will describe Buhari differently. But of course, if you go to some of his political associates, they will describe him differently. And if you go to, for instance, Southeast, with the issue of Nnamdi Kanu and all of that, who was, so to say, adopted from Kenya and brought back to Nigeria, they will describe Buhari differently. You understand? So that's just it. So, but of course, as a leader, you can never satisfy everybody. But one thing that leaders should do is that while you are leading, try as much as possible to ensure that everybody feel a sense of belonging.
Now let's look at the Guardian newspaper. Thank you, Dishabasi, for your opinion. Let's look at the Guardian newspaper. The headlines we have here. It says 2027 presidency may use courts to scuttle ADC Mark warns. Another one here says tributes. You know, we lost our ex-president, so basically more of the news regarding to Buhari will definitely make top headlines. The Guardian says tributes, reflections on legacy as Buhari bows out 82. Contractors to shut down FCT roads in protest against indebtedness. LP slams Abure over secret meetings with Winke, reaffirms suspicion. That's a very dicey one. We have here this morning.
I think I would like to speak on the story. Of course, we've just talked about
Buhari, so
President Buhari, who just
on
passed.
any of the topics we have here.
There's a story you talk about David Mark.
Yes.
Fearing that the
presidency may use courts to scuttle ADC.
Well, I want to believe that ADC, if they put their house in order, I don't see any reason why the president should use courts to scuttle them. And what am I talking about here? There are people within the ADC who are somehow aggrieved that the way and manner that the new leadership came in was not good enough. As far as they are concerned, they felt that they should have been consulted. There should have been a wider consultation, so that everybody within the ADC will be carried along. So if you didn't carry everybody that you should carry along, and then you create a gaps for those people within the party to go to court to challenge the manner in which you came in and take over the party, and then that's your fault. I don't think that's the presidency fault. So if you are not able to plug all the loopholes that the presidency can, cash in on, you understand, can take advantage of to probably go to court, or maybe use people within the party to go to court, and then that's your own fault. And so ADC, what ADC should do is that make sure that all the loopholes that are open to people within the party, those who may feel aggrieved within the party, are properly, blocked. So if you do that, and if anybody, whether in the presidency or anybody, decides to go to court, and then of course I don't see any reason why court will give anybody what does not exist. And that's my view as far as that was concerned. I think there's another story there. Still on the front
page of the Guardian newspaper says contractors to shut down.
I needed to just
to shut down FCT roads in protest against indebtedness.
Meaning that they have not been paid for the job done.
Of course.
But we've been seeing Mr. Wike making noise all over the place of this and that. But I don't know. I think except I'm going to talk of. I don't know whether it is contractors, whether the contractors that are local government contractors, or maybe the
private contractors,
or maybe contractors that were contracted by the FCT administration or the federal government. But whatever it is, it shouldn't get to a point where we have contractors, shut down anywhere or block road because they have not been paid. I think the right thing to do here is that when you have awarded contract to contractors, you should be able to pay them. I think there's always agreement whether sometime we may pay, we will mobilize them, maybe it could be 40%, 60%, and as the progress, the project progresses, and then there's a point where you come in again to pay. I don't know. So if that has not been done, I expect that they should do that, because if they have to block road and shut down anywhere, at the end of the day, it is the Nigerians who live in Abuja that will suffer, and I don't think that is necessary. Yeah.
So we'll look at the Nation newspaper. It says Buhari Nigeria mourns. We'll be seeing Buhari on almost all the pages of the newspaper this morning, of which is something that we Nigerians need to, sit back and reflect. It's time whereby it was the president of Nigeria, and how he was able to carry us along. Then we saw in the newspaper last week that he was ill. Of course, it was receiving treatment in London. Then all of a sudden, this week we woke up yesterday. The news is that he was dead. Another topic here, headline here says Buhari life, his policies, his legacies, and his life in photos. Let's look at his life for some time before we call it quit this morning on the newspaper review. Would you have said that, you know, I don't know if I'm supposed to say this, you know, there's a controversy online saying he has been dead a long time ago, that this Buhari now that people are saying is dead is really not the Ashra president. Would you say is a conspiracy? I don't know. Or you say now they come out to say that he's dead, now is the real time that he died?
I think that was the a narrative, a conspiracy theory that was pushed by is it IPOB and Nnamdi Kanu, as they say, the man was there. So I think that Buhari just died yesterday. That's what I believe. That's what the family has told us officially. We saw that Buhari rounded off his administration in 2023, sorry, and then handed over to President Bola Ahmed Tinubu precisely on May 29, 2023. So for those who were saying Buhari is dead, I don't think we should even discuss that. Buhari was never dead. Buhari has just died yesterday, and so it was basically those kind of funny conspiracy theories that people put out there for whatever reason. I don't know. Yeah. So, like I said, it would be missed. He was a patriot, if you ask me, but like I said earlier on, is different people will describe Buhari differently, the way he touched their lives. And like I said, if you ask people in Benue State to describe Buhari, they'll have something to say about him, different from people of Katsina, where he came from. Maybe if you ask people from the southeastern part of Nigeria to describe Buhari, they'll have something to say about him differently. But like I said, overall, when we have the opportunity to provide leadership, whether at the national level, subnational level, local government level, or even at the family level, any level that we find ourselves providing leadership, we should try and be as fair as possible to everybody, create a situation and an atmosphere that gives everybody a sense of belonging, because that's the legacy that we leave behind. I recall during Buhari's administration, once again, you remember the way this type of herdsmen, Fulani herdsmen, all of this, so the way some of these guys kind of went berserk, a lot of destruction, being done here and there. We saw a lot of killings, and some of this, nobody will. We can't really say, oh, these people were arrested and prosecuted and then made to pay for the wrong that they did. I think there were, people within the system who just took advantage of maybe Buhari's, weakness, because clearly he was a calm, easygoing person. Some weakness. Maybe we also saw that intermittently he was in and out of hospital. People took advantage of that, but which is the reason why we should be able to have create a strong institution such that even if the person who is in charge is not there, the institution can run effectively without looking at. We also saw how issue of transmitting power to the vice president. It was also an issue during Buhari's time.
Yes.
There were times he did it. There were times he didn't do it, and so all that. And so, like overall, he was a good man. He led the country well. Like I say, in 1983, when he overthrew the administration of Alhaji Shehu Shagari, he came in. People sat up and rallied. People know, look, there's a leader. So everybody was like, look, if you don't do the right thing, the government will come after you. And everybody sat up. We saw discipline. We saw people behave, in a way that you were proud to be a Nigerian at that time. But it came again in 2015, in 2015 to 2023, like I said, a little bit of layback. Some people felt that what people were expecting to see coming from 1983, I think a lot of people didn't quite see that.
Yeah, let's quickly look at the cartoon of the day. So from the cartoon of the day we have over here, we can see a man lying down on a sick bed with another man standing and then showing him two papers. One says, okay, the other one says, the first one says fan. Basically, it seems like the one lying on the bed is sick, and the one standing is showing him a lot of documents here and there, bills to be paid, and list of bills to be taken care of in the other hand, while the man on the sick bed says, I am very well now. So what does this cartoon of the day is trying to say to us? Joshua, can you? Okay.
Yeah, I'm trying to look at the man that lying on the bed.
The man lying on the bed looks
like former chairman of APC, Ganduje, and the guy who is saying in the paper looks like the minister of aviation, Festus Keyemo. But I'm trying to actually read what it is.
Okay, he's saying fan appointment later.
Okay, fine.
That's what is holding in the other hand. Then the other hand is holding dollar bills, like money. Okay, maybe he's trying to say my appointment later. I need you to work on my appointment later, and at the same time he's trying to let him know that I have the money for you to be able to make my appointment later, fast track it, make it come to reality for me. And the man on the sick bed is saying, I am very well now, meaning I'm sick, in the he's saying, I'm sick, I'm so sorry, there's no way I can help you right now, I'm on my sick bed, just as you can see.
Yeah, Ganduje, after resigning as chairman of APC, just got disappointment by the president as chairman of FAM, Federal Aviation Authority of Nigeria. I think they've just been sworn in last week by the Minister of Aviation. And I think I did Nigerian to decode. I also remember there was the issue of stuffing of dollars into his Babariga when he was governor of
and with the way he's stuffing the dollars in his hand, I feel like the money is more important.
Yeah, so whether it is dollar that is important to him or with the new appointment as chairman of the fund that is more important to him now, the point is that he's telling you that I'm well now. Whichever one, I'm well now. So
I'm well now.
I'm well now to be to continue as chairman of a fund. I'm well now, whether it is whatever. I think that Nigeria should be able to decode that, and then our cartoon Asoko is always doing the creative thing. Great cartoon there.
Yeah.
You ask me. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Joshua, for joining me in the studio this morning.
Yeah, thank you, Elizabeth. I'm sorry, Glory.
You're welcome.
Yeah, thank you.
And this is all we can take this morning on the newspaper segment on the BDTV Breakfast Show. Keep watching the BDTV. Coming up next is the Business Morning.
Nigeria has lost one of its most prominent and controversial leaders. Former President Muhammadu Buhari has passed away. The news was confirmed by his former aide that Buhari died in a London clinic. He was 82 years old. Muhammadu Buhari served as Nigerian civilian president from 2015 to 2023, after leading the country earlier as the military head of state between 1983 and 1985. Known for his anti-terrorism goals and efforts to rebuild Nigeria's economy, Buhari was both respected and criticized for his leadership style. During his presidency, Buhari focused on restoring national security and expanding Nigeria's agricultural base. He also played a significant role on the international stage, particularly within the African Union and ECOWAS. The former president was survived by his wife, Aisha Buhari, and their children. Rest in peace, Muhammadu Buhari.
I am, of course, a great admirer of the impeccable credibility, professionalism, and business savviness of BusinessDay. If you really mean business in Nigeria, start your day with BusinessDay.
BusinessDay is West Africa's leading provider of business intelligence and information, delivering premium content across diversified media platforms, including online, mobile, and print. Since its inception in 2001 with a weekly newspaper production, BusinessDay has expanded its reach to provide exclusive content accessible through print, mobile, and online channels. Our premium offerings are further enriched with syndicated content from esteemed sources like the Financial Times, The Economist, and the Harvard Business Review. At BusinessDay, our mission is clear: to be the foremost provider of business and financial content, empowering readers to make informed decisions in Nigeria and Africa. Since our establishment, we have been committed to delivering insightful, relevant, and accurate information about Nigeria's business and finance environment, while contextualizing the impact of global events. We monitor the stock market, analyze the companies driving it, and report on government policies and their economic implications.
For being consistent in organizing these CEO forums for almost the last 14 years, I think this was a commendation, and I think something that will encourage them to continue.
From decoding market trends to dissecting economic shifts, we offer actionable investment ideas and serve as a compass for decision makers navigating complexity. Beyond headlines, BusinessDay fosters discussions on critical economic issues through impactful conferences and events. These platforms bring industry leaders together to share narratives that drive innovation and spark meaningful dialogues. Our events galvanize connections, bridging the gap between inspiration and achievement. For businesses seeking visibility, our strong digital presence offers unparalleled opportunities, with millions of followers across social media and a dynamic website attracting visitors from within and outside Nigeria. BusinessDay is the ideal platform to boost visibility for your products and services. If you're looking for in-depth analysis and expert opinions on Nigeria and Africa's business landscape, BusinessDay is your guide.
watching Business Day Television.
Good morning and welcome to Business Morning here on Business Day TV. It's Monday, July 14th, 2025. I am Destiny Momo.
And I'm Deborah Eze. Thank you for starting your day with us as usual, where we bring you the latest insights shaping Nigeria's business landscape and bringing analytical answers to the questions around the world of business and the economy. We begin today with a focus on the local, where the decision made closest to the people often have the biggest ripple effect on the economy. Nigeria held local government elections across several states, including Lagos. These elections, often overlooked, come at a crucial time right after a landmark Supreme Court ruling granting full financial autonomy to local councils. That means local governments now have more control over their own purse strings and potentially more responsibility when it comes to driving real development on the ground. But here's the big question. Can grassroots politics really shape economic stability and growth? How do this seemingly small election impact everything from basic infrastructure to job creation and investor confidence?
Yeah.
Now, to unpack this, we are joined by a policy analyst who will help us explore the economic significance of grassroots governance and what Saturday's election might mean for the future of local economic planning in Nigeria. Good morning, Olusegun. Can you hear me? It's great to have you this morning.
Good morning, Destiny. Good morning, Daddy. A great day to be with our viewers across the globe with the D&D on a Monday morning.
Good to have you again, sir. So how significant is the timing of these elections coming right after the Supreme Court granted financial autonomy to local governments? And what do you think of what economic opportunities or risk does local fiscal independence present?
Thank you very much, Destiny. First and foremost, we have to make our viewers understand that we have three tiers of government: the federal, states, and the local government. The autonomy being signed by Mr. President is just to reaffirm and reinforce the impact the local government and grassroots contribution give to the global economic growth of our nation. You see, the autonomy that we're actually talking about that was actually signed, but yet to be fully implemented, we go a long way because majority of the people that we're talking of are the grassroots people who reinforce the middle class and later metamorphose into the elite class. And I can refer to this as the foundation or the fulcrum at which an economy must grow. Every of your raw material that you want to talk about comes from those rural areas that you can now take to the urban area. So when you don't give the necessary attention to the local, the rural area, then definitely there are actual problems of growth economically. So this election that just happened in Lagos State and some area is what is expected so that we can have good governance from the grassroots metamorphosed into the state, and we can have lesser pressure even in it. Some of the challenges that we have faced today is because of lack of governance in the remote area. And when you hear about insecurity, you go to some state, for example, like Borno. I was in Maiduguri, and you ask yourself that even at the middle of it, there seems not to be a problem at the center. It is more of the rural area because of the failure of governance. And that's why we feel that the election is key and is very fundamental for economic growth.
Voters' participation in the local government polls. Now, it has historically been low. What does Saturday's turnout signal about citizen confidence and local institution? And how could that affect local budgets, legitimacy, and economic planning?
Yeah, the turnout ordinarily is something that came up as a matter of this trust deficit on the part of those that are being governed and those that are governing us. A lot of people already formed their opinion about what the outcome of the results of an election will look like. So they don't even bother themselves to show because they feel that their vote will not count. That's one aspect of it. The other aspect of it is the fear of being attacked, not you being able to express your personal opinion because certain set of people feel that they can be attacked when they have a divergent view against what majority needs to have. This critical issue, and that's why you see most of the time a show of force to actually pass signal to some people that might want to take advantage. Even though in Lagos we did not see so much of that show of force in this local government election, but you know what has actually been registered in the minds of so many, and that denial of you expressing your free choice metamorphosed into a lot of people staying back and say, let those that will do it. In fact, a lot of people called me and said, this election is not election, it's selection. And that has actually contributed to the low turnout. The government needs to go all out to win the trust of the people. And it must start from the center in such a way that you make them feel that their vote counts. And when they speak, it goes a very long way.
Councils oversee frontline services like schools, clinics, markets. How do their performance and accountability at the grassroots and stability and growth on a broader scale?
Yeah, you see, this question is very germane. And if you tell me, I think past government, past administration has failed as regards some of these basic infrastructure that we need to have at the grassroots. It's entrenched in our law that we should have primary health care center. And while some of us are growing up, at least at my middle age, we have some of these things very much functional, that those at the grassroots can go, in fact, they can give birth. The maternal rate at which we have at a very high rate was failure of the primary health center because a lot of them were actually not being equipped. And I think for Lagos State, where we see a center of excellence, they are redirecting and re-energizing things. I think just last week or last 2 weeks, we saw ECOC, setting up an healthcare facility, which we consider as a world class. If that can happen in the 774 local government that we have in Nigeria, you can see that people can access healthcare center and not just building the infrastructure, putting the necessary equipment that can equally, meet up with the service that are expected to be provided to the people. You see, in terms of education, in Lagos, a lot of us are able to speak big grammar today because we have a very humble beginning. If not that the government provided the free education, we may not be able to have access to it. And that's why we are saying that the local government needs to take up the responsibility of providing certain infrastructure. Lagos set the ground. I can see a lot of the intellect streets in Lagos being visited, being carried out by the LCDAs and the local government chairman. A lot of it are actually going. And I've asked myself, I hope it's not because of the election coming. How can we follow through to make sure, because they are closer to the people, and if there are infrastructure failure in terms of health, education, road, there is no how you can grow the economy. You can imagine if you don't have good access road to the raw material that you have to take to the urban area or to the city, definitely that will impact on the cost at which you are going to make those things available. And that's why we are charging that the autonomy is coming in the right time. The local government should not see it as an avenue where they will do politicking. They should go do governance, and that in turn will increase the base, the tariff they will charge, those taxes that should go to the local government and the levies that should go to the local government. A lot of people can contribute more, and they can increase their revenue base by giving more to the people that they are definitely needing.
Society groups have raised concerns about the election. That's the timing, the transparency, and the commission readiness. So tell us, what governance gaps persist at the grassroots, and how might this influence fiscal efficiency and corruption?
Yeah, like I just said, the major gap that we have is that there has been infrastructure failure at the grassroots. those days when we are growing up, there are proximity of some of this infrastructure to the people that are actually being governed. But of late, you discover that a lot of this infrastructure no longer available for them to actually have access to. When you look at some places in Lagos, let's take for example, Ekpe, they are known for providing fishes because of the water they are surrounded with. If not until late, that the Lagos state provided certain road infrastructure in that area, in conjunction with the advent of development in terms of the refinery that we had in that area. Ekpe was just no area where people have to go. But of late, you've seen instances where development has suddenly, spanned up, and people are, having residential area because of the safety and security that you have in that area. You can't take those things away, because if those things are not there, the physical growth is not going to happen. People will not be able to pay their levies. People will not be, because that's the legit area of generating revenue as government. And when you don't provide those infrastructure at which people must ride on, the next thing that will happen is that there will be deficit on the part of government being able to fulfill their obligation, and the people will not be able to enjoy what governance is all about. And that's what we're saying, that gap must be filled in terms of infrastructure. When you provide primary education and secondary in the suburb area where you are with quality infrastructure, what you're saying is that you are producing it. And I've referred to that. I attended a secondary school in the locality where I grew up in Ojota. And it's because the government was able to make provision of some of this infrastructure because such thing is a leveler for everybody to have access to education. And when those things are not provided for, what that in tune turns to is that you deny the basic grassroots access to good education, and on the long run, they become miscreants because you have not actually trained them, and you can't blame them. So government must bridge that gap, and it is by going to the grassroots, providing those basic infrastructure for them to grow their businesses, because majorly those that carry out businesses are the SMEs. And in tune from what the federal are doing, they are already giving them some levelers in such a way that they are exempted from paying certain taxes so that they can plow back some of those things into their business. The area the local government needs to now do is to provide the infrastructure so that you can grow the business of the locals, which they can grow gradually and contribute to the bottom line on the long run.
How can local businesses and entrepreneurs play in holding local government administrations accountable? Can stronger public or private engagement at the grassroots level boost economic outcomes? What do you think, sir?
Definitely it can't. And you see a lot of us, of which I too am culpable of. Do we even have access to the budget of local governments where we carry out our businesses or where we reside, to give constructive and objective criticism to the way some of them are actually doing? When they made promises of some of these things, do we put timeline to it to constructively and objectively engage them in the delivery of some of those things? Do we measure the quality of some of the things that they are doing? I think it's another area where the entrepreneurs are lacking. All we just want to concentrate on is that let me carry on my business, whichever way I can survive with it. I think it borders on us as entrepreneurs, as small, medium business enterprise, to carry out, objective criticism on some of the politicians, on their commitment and their promises to the people. It may sound tiring. They may not listen to you. But continuous engagement on some of the things that they have actually promised, which are intended in their budget, should be followed through in such a way that they give those deliverables. And in instances where we can have PPP arrangement with the locals, we can definitely engage them to this to see that, okay, if you are contributing this quota as a business that are actually, carrying on this operation in this local, I'm ready to give this as my CSR, and together we can collaborate for the growth of it. It's important that as entrepreneurs, we must ask for accountability, be objective in our criticism to some of the politicians, but because they are there, They are politicians. They might think they are doing it right, but it's impacting on your own business, and you should be able to engage them in a in an objective manner that will not be seen as if you are loading your them on them. Because don't take away ego from the politician, and with that, we can together grow our locals that will definitely grow the national economy of our nation.
Thank you so much, Mr. Olusegun Okunade. It was really good to have you on the Business Morning this morning.
It's a pleasure to start the week with D&D. That's Destiny and Debbie. And to all our viewers across the globe, stay tuned with the Business Day television. We always try to give you an insight into some of the things that are going on up today. Thank you, and have a wonderful day.
Have a great day, Mr. Sheson.
All right, we'll go on a quick break. When we come back, we're going to be having our second part of the conversation on Business Morning. Stay with us.
I am, of course, a great admirer of the impeccable credibility, professionalism, and business savviness of BusinessDay. If you really mean business in Nigeria, start your day with BusinessDay.
BusinessDay is West Africa's leading provider of business intelligence and information, delivering premium content across diversified media platforms, including online, mobile, and print. Since its inception in 2001 with a weekly newspaper production, BusinessDay has expanded its reach to provide exclusive content accessible through print, mobile, and online channels. Our premium offerings are further enriched with syndicated content from esteemed sources like the Financial Times, The Economist, and the Harvard Business Review. At BusinessDay, our mission is clear: to be the foremost provider of business and financial content, empowering readers to make informed decisions in Nigeria and Africa. Since our establishment, we have been committed to delivering insightful, relevant, and accurate information about Nigeria's business and finance environment, while contextualizing the impact of global events. We monitor the stock market, analyze the companies driving it, and report on government policies and their economic implications.
For being consistent in organizing these CEO forums for almost the last 14 years, I think this was a commendation, and I think something that will encourage them to continue.
From decoding market trends to dissecting economic shifts, we offer actionable investment ideas and serve as a compass for decision makers navigating complexity. Beyond headlines, BusinessDay fosters discussions on critical economic issues through impactful conferences and events. These platforms bring industry leaders together to share narratives that drive innovation and spark meaningful dialogues. Our events galvanize connections, bridging the gap between inspiration and achievement. For businesses seeking visibility, our strong digital presence offers unparalleled opportunities, with millions of followers across social media and a dynamic website attracting visitors from within and outside Nigeria. BusinessDay is the ideal platform to boost visibility for your products and services. If you're looking for in-depth analysis and expert opinions on Nigeria and Africa's business landscape, BusinessDay is your guide.
Good morning and welcome to the BDTV Breakfast Show. I am Bethel Oludebi.
My name is Elizabeth Musa. And this is the social listening segment on the BDTV Breakfast Show.
We're talking about the Fly Nigeria Act. Can you give us a background into what this is about?
We are here today on the streets of Lagos, Nigeria, to gather opinion about a pressing issue
I go look at the cost of petrol. We get away from Nigeria, we dey suffer.
The income is not really increasing, but the prices of items are increased.
Nothing like savings again, no. You only pray for that money to reach you that month.
There's a lot of high pressure, a lot of stress. There's a lot of high targets to be met.
I was quite strict. In my mind, I said, looking for my hand, my picking go spoil.
To allow all banks and all the players in the space
15% inflation target achievable in 2025.
The command and vision philosophy of both the Chief of Defense Staff, the Chief of Army Staff, and indeed all the service chiefs.
Nigeria has lost one of its most prominent and controversial leaders. Former President Muhammadu Buhari has passed away. The news was confirmed by his former aide that Buhari died in a London clinic. He was 82 years old. Muhammadu Buhari served as Nigerian civilian president from 2015 to 2023, after leading the country earlier as the military head of state between 1983 and 1985. Known for his anti-terrorism goals and efforts to rebuild Nigeria's economy, Buhari was both respected and criticized for his leadership style. During his presidency, Buhari focused on restoring national security and expanding Nigeria's agricultural base. He also played a significant role on the international stage, particularly within the African Union and ECOWAS. The former president was survived by his wife, Aisha Buhari, and their children. Rest in peace, Muhammadu Buhari.
Now, welcome back to Business Money. Now, let's turn our focus to the burning issue at the heart of Nigeria's oil industry refineries.
Yes, the Nigerian National Petroleum Company, NNPC, is once again caught in a crossroad. Should it continue pumping billions into rehabilitating the country's aging refineries, or should it finally let go and sell them off to private investors? It's a debate that's resurfaced with new urgency as questions around the pace, cost, and transparency of ongoing rehabilitation projects moved around. So with Nigeria still importing the bulk of its refined petroleum products, despite being Africa's top oil producer, the stakes couldn't be higher. Billions of dollars hang in the balance, as does the promise of energy security, job creation, and downstream industrial growth.
Now, joining us this morning is Dr. Kayode Dayo. Thank you for joining us on the show.
Good morning, sir.
Yes, it's my pleasure being with you, and thanks for having me.
All right, so let's start with the big picture. Why has refinery rehabilitation become such a long-running challenge in Nigeria, and why is it back in the spotlight now?
Yes, it will always be like that because the greed of the leaders, of the oligarchs, will never allow our national grid to work. The greed, that is GREED, the greed, the hedonistic tendencies of these oligarchs will never allow our national grid, GRID, to work. And remember, one of my mentors, Mahatma Gandhi, once said, and I quote, he said, our resources are enough. They are just enough for our needs and not for our greeds. And this is what is playing out. There is no way our refinery will ever work if the issue of corruption that has eaten deep like cancer in that particular sector, not only that sector alone, it's not only in NNPC, it's in everywhere, all the areas of our economic sector. Is it telecommunication I want to say, transportation, road construction and maintenance, power, energy? Which one? The corruption there is too much. And everybody is out to just cut their own cake without thinking of how to make cake for those coming behind. So if you can look at it from that perspective, we'll be able to know why, despite all the amount of money being pumped into this particular sector, we are still seeing nothing.
Dr. K, the government has spent billions of dollars reviving refineries with little to show. Now, from an economic standpoint, does rehabilitation still make sense, or are we throwing good money after bad?
You see, there is nothing wrong in rehabilitation. Okay, look at how much we have spent in rehabilitating those refineries over the years. Can you compare it to how much a single individual like Dangote spent in building, constructing, and making that his refinery to be supplying Nigerians fuel? Even look at what happened to Dangote. If not because he understands the Yoruba adage that says, Mojamosa la maki konju logun. Akíkanjú tó rogun tó padà bọ̀ wá, òun là ń mọ̀ ní akíkanjú ológun. I will interpret. When you fight. You must know when to withdraw. You must know when to withdraw. You must know when to compromise certain things. Because it is only when you are able to win the war you are fighting that they will say, yes, here stands a valiant man. What am I saying? Look at Dangote refinery. When this administration came in, Dangote wouldn't have been selling his own fuel at this price. But because along the line, you heard him, what he was saying. How the federal government was trying to strangulate him. And he was talking about one meeting with the federal government, another meeting with NNPC, and you should sell for him in dollar, you should not sell for him in naira, you should this, you should that. All those back and forth. Who doesn't know how to put meat inside mouth, and then you will not be able to see that meat again? Who doesn't know that? Right. Who doesn't understand the kind of waters that were passing underneath the bridge? But here we are today. Here we are today. It is even a shame on the federal government for an individual to build a working refinery that is even supplying petroleum products to outside Nigeria, and then you cannot maintain the ones that you have. It's a shame. It's a shame. However, there is no amount of money they pump into that place. Even when you privatize it, the person they are going to give, there must be a deal between him and the government. They will strike a deal. They will look at what comes to them first. We have all seen it. IP&D issue. Well, are you not aware? Are you not aware of also what happened to our Airpeace when he started flying London route? So we are all aware of these things. Not until when we come up with one institutional frameworks that will be out to fight this evil called corruption among government officials, among government office holders, among political office holders. Hey, Debbie, we ain't going to get to anywhere. But then, the people themselves, we the people that are suffering it, must be ready to come together and tell them, and tell those in authority that without us, you can't be there. You are there because you are existing. Okay. So your being in that office should not be detrimental to our own life being. It shouldn't be detrimental to our own sustenance. It shouldn't be detrimental to the kind of living standard that we are supposed to be exposed to. So what am I saying? Is the people themselves must wake up and tell the government the truth and take actions. Take actions. I'm repeating. Take actions whenever it is necessary.
All right, Dr. Dayo, we'll go on a short break and come back and ask you the rest of the questions. Please don't go away.
I'm on.
Good morning and welcome to the BDTV Breakfast Show. I am Bethel Olajabi.
My name is Elizabeth Musa. And this is the social listening segment on the BDTV Breakfast Show.
We're talking about the Fly Nigeria Act. Can you give us a background into what this is about?
We are here today on the streets of Lagos, Nigeria, to gather opinion about a pressing issue.
I go look at the cost of petrol. We get very for Nigeria with the suffer.
The income is not really increasing, but the prices of items are increased.
Nothing like service again.
Welcome back. And Dr. K, it's good to have you and to still have you in the studio as the questions continue in Business Morning. Some argue that the selling of the refineries to private investors could drive efficiency and transparency. What do you think will be the potential risk or downsides of that route?
You see, I've mentioned it tacitly along the line of our earlier discussions. There's no doubt about it that government has no business in business. There's no doubt about it that if allowed private investors to come into it, it will work. But I bet you, we have all seen so many theoretical conceptual frameworks that have worked elsewhere in the world. But when it gets back to Nigeria, it's something else. There is no way you will still give it to private investors that these people in the ministry, political office holders, will not put one form of encumbrance or the other. There is no way it won't happen. I mean, it will not happen. The only thing we can do is to ensure that our institutions are strengthened. As regards this now, what kind of institution? Like BP, Bureau of Public Enterprise, that will handle the transfer of ownership to private individuals. The EFCC, ICPC, they must be seen to be doing their work towards ensuring that there is no financial crimes involved in it. That is, when you are transferring it, you must be seriously transparent in transferring it. It shouldn't be like that or award of contract of major road from Lagos to Calabar or whatever. It shouldn't be like that. There must be utmost transparency. But the question now is, how transparent are our political office holders? How transparent are the ministry that is involved? Because I am speaking from the background of past occurrences in this country. Look at how much we were told is missing presently in NNPC. Look at how much we were told with facts and figures were stolen by the former GMD of NNPC. Even the present one. Do a background check on him. Then you will know that he is also there representing some people's interests. He's also there representing some people's interests. So tell me, when you now want to hand over an NPC to private individual, what do you think will happen? These are issues that is making people to be having a kind of a second thought as regards privatizing NNPC, because the truth gap between the government and the people kept widening each day that breaks.
All right, Dr. K. So the bottom line now, if you were advising the presidency or NNPC today, what would your policy recommendation be? Would it be to sell, to fix, or would you go for a hybrid model recommendation?
There is none of the options that are not good enough. If only transparency is involved. What we are talking about now is transparency. What we are talking is transparency. Nothing more. If the government is involved, trying to rehabilitate it and make it work, there must be transparency. And people's interest must be taken into cognizance. If you are selling it to a private individual, there must also be transparency. It shouldn't be like the transatlantic route that you are constructing from Lagos to Calabar. Shouldn't be. There must be transparency. And then the people's well-being, socio-economic well-being must also be taken into consideration, because this thing we call fuel, oil, is supposed to be socio-economic product to the people. Socio-economic product. I'm telling you, I did a research sometimes ago, not quite even 3 months. As it is today, even if we are refining our petroleum products abroad, if PMS is being sold at 50 naira per liter, government will still not short. Government will still not lose. Ask me how. Because there are some other derivatives that when you sell outside of the country, it will earn you dollars. It will earn you foreign money. And that one will now be able to take care of whatever shortfall you are having in the sales of PMS. So tell me, who is deceiving who? But it's a pity. We Nigerians, we don't do research. We don't read. Even those of us, most of us that are in the know, they're always afraid to speak up. Some that are not afraid, they are observing table etiquette. You know, you don't talk when you are eating. Observing table etiquette. So those are the issues.
All right, thank you so much, Dr. Kayode, for your insight this morning. It's good to have you on the show.
It's my pleasure people you do this morning. Thanks for having me. Enjoy the rest of your day and your week. Bye.
And that's the much we can take on Business Money today. Up next is Big Story. My name is Destiny Momo.
And my name is Deborah Eze. Keep watching BDTV.
Good morning.
I am, of course, a great admirer of the impeccable credibility, professionalism, and business savviness of BusinessDay. If you really mean business in Nigeria, start your day with BusinessDay.
BusinessDay is West Africa's leading provider of business intelligence and information, delivering premium content across diversified media platforms, including online, mobile, and print. Since its inception in 2001 with a weekly newspaper production, BusinessDay has expanded its reach to provide exclusive content accessible through print, mobile, and online channels. Our premium offerings are further enriched with syndicated content from esteemed sources like the Financial Times, The Economist, and the Harvard Business Review. At BusinessDay, our mission is clear: to be the foremost provider of business and financial content, empowering readers to make informed decisions in Nigeria and Africa. Since our establishment, we have been committed to delivering insightful, relevant, and accurate information about Nigeria's business and finance environment, while contextualizing the impact of global events. We monitor the stock market, analyze the companies driving it, and report on government policies and their economic implications.
For being consistent in organizing these CEO forums for almost the last 14 years, I think this was a commendation. and I think something that will encourage them to continue.
From decoding market trends to dissecting economic shifts, we offer actionable investment ideas and serve as a compass for decision makers navigating complexity. Beyond headlines, Business Day fosters discussions on critical economic issues through impactful conferences and events. These platforms bring industry leaders together to share narratives that drive innovation and spark meaningful dialogues. Our events galvanize connections, bridging the gap between inspiration and achievement. For businesses seeking visibility, our strong digital presence offers unparalleled opportunities, with millions of followers across social media and a dynamic website attracting visitors from within and outside Nigeria. Business Day is the ideal platform to boost visibility for your products and services. If you're looking for in-depth analysis and expert opinions on Nigeria and Africa's business landscape, Business Day is your guide.
Good morning and welcome to the BDTV Breakfast Show. I am Bethel Ogunjobi.
My name is Elizabeth Musa. And this is the social listening segment on the BDTV Breakfast Show.
We're talking about the Fly Nigeria Act. Can you give us a background into what this is about?
We are here today on the streets of Lagos, Nigeria, to gather opinion about a pressing issue.
I go look at the cost of petrol. We get very Nigeria with the suffer.
The income is not really increasing, but the prices of items are increased.
Nothing like service again, no. You only pray for that money to reach you that month.
There's a lot of high pressure, a lot of stress. There's a lot of high targets to be met.
I was quite strict. In my mind, I said, looking for my hand, my picking go spoil.
To allow all banks and all the players in the space
15% inflation target achievable in 2025.
The command and vision philosophy of both the Chief of Defense Staff, the Chief of Army Staff, and indeed all the service chiefs.
Attention business leaders. Want to make informed decisions? Join the ranks of the best with Premium Business Day. Access in-depth analysis and expert opinions to stay ahead. Subscribe now at premium.businessday.ng and unlock premium content. Plus, you get 50% off your first subscription. Don't miss out. Make smarter choices and seize new opportunities. Sign up now and elevate your business game. Visit premium.businessday.ng today.
are watching Business Day Television.
You've tuned in to the Big Story segment of the BDTV Breakfast Show, where we discuss key issues shaping our nation and economy at large. I am Deborah Eze. Today, we examine the effect of the President Muhammadu Buhari demise on the planned 2027 political coalition to unseat the present administration. As Nigeria navigates its evolving political terrain, the passing of former President Muhammadu Buhari marks the end of an era, both militarily and democratically. Buhari's influence on the political establishment, especially within the Northern Bloc and the All Progressives Congress, APC, remains significant even in death. With the 2027 elections fast approaching and calls for a national coalition to challenge entrenched powers gaining momentum, the question arises, will Buhari's absence weaken the Northern political consensus or alter coalition building dynamics across regions? In this segment, we engage a political analyst to examine the late Buhari's role in coalition politics, Northern alignment, and what his death could mean for the 2027 realignment. Our guest this morning is Dr. Kash Onanuju, DG of the Heritage Center of Abuja. He's also a political analyst and public affairs commentator. He's conversant with political issues and one of the brains behind the obedience movement, and will unpack the real implication and development. Good morning, Dr. Kash. It's good to have you on the show.
I thank you very much for having me. Of course, I greet your audience and I wish them very well on a great Nigerian morning.
All right, let's go straight into it. Now, what role did Muhammadu Buhari play in shaping Northern political unity? Now, especially during the coalition that led to the APC's rise in 2015.
I would say the problem of the North didn't start with the Buhari. It's an old problem. And Buhari himself was born into it. He was born under the Daura Emirates. The Daura Emirates stretches from Daura in Nigeria through Maradi in Niger to as far as the Libyan border. And Buhari has told us constantly that he has his relatives in Maradi. And of course, we know what that is. But then that's not it. Buhari first came to limelight as a soldier during the war, and then the national service when there was the coup that removed the civilian government of Shehu Shagari. But because of, in the words of a former military president, Babangida, Buhari was rigid. They had to do a coup to remove him. That was actually Nigeria's first palace coup. And then Babangida ruled. But when Buhari came back for the second term, people had a nostalgic feel about the work of Tunde Diagbon, and they thought Buhari could recreate that. But no, Buhari's government became a disappointment because all the promises he gave us weren't there. And today, his legacy is remembered well for the weaponization of nepotism. I remember when he did one thing. I told somebody yesterday, I said, it is tricky that Buhari is gone and Igbos are still part of Nigeria. Buhari established in the Igbo heartlands what is called the covert oppression, perpetrated by elements of the Buhari administration, today known as unknown government sting operation. Buhari in Katsina State, where houses are now jubilating, started the industrial scale ethnic cleansing to gain land to resettle Fulani refugees who were running away from war in Central African Republic, from Mali, because in Central Mali there was a war between the Dogons and the Fulani in Mpotsi. And of course, in Burkina Faso and other places, it is due to that Fulani war that you now saw the AES, the Association of the Sahel States. They now formed themselves because of that war. But the war now bettered into Nigeria. As the war got into Nigeria, Buhari was successful in getting people like Buratai, the army chief, to look away from the constitution, which originally his oath was sworn to. No, his oath now became to Buhari itself. Meanwhile, Buratai is actually Babur. It's Baburu, also called Bura. It's Babur from southern Borno. They say the Babur also exists under the Adamawa Emirate in Adamawa State, but most of them also, just like the Marigi, they live in both Adamawa and also in Borno. But he was that loyal. He looked the other way as the Fulani militiamen sustained their ethnic cleansing actions aimed at gaining lands for the resettlement of the Fulani refugees who had come from Burkina Faso, Central African Republic, Mali, and other places to resettle. Now, it's not that Buhari didn't try to help them, because we have had this problem before. First, we had the refugee crisis when Israel invaded East Lebanon in 1974. Lebanese refugees came here. Nigeria quartered them in Kanu, quartered them in Apapa, Lagos, and some in Benin and other places. But when we now had this influx of refugees, instead of Buhari to repeat what we've done before, no, he started trying to pretend resettling those refugees was an agricultural policy. He demanded for things like grazing reserve, or looking for land. Nigerians refused. He said car colony, we refuse. He said consolidation of underground and surface waters and then to make that, with Nigerians refused. He even tried to call something National Livestock Development Program, at which the states were promised, if you bring land, the vice president will now midwife a strategy where you will get money. But after the elections in 2019, before government was formed, Nigerians saw a pump set giving us APOs for Ruga. And that was how, when everybody came up to understand it, that policy crashed. Okay. So he tried very much to gain land. And when Nigerians couldn't budge and give land, that was when they now started this policy of industrial scale ethnic cleansings for ancestral lands that swept through Kaduna, Katsina, Zamfara, Sokoto, places like Niger State, Plateau State, and of Taraba State, and now Benue State. So his legacy isn't that very good.
Okay.
Yes, his wife is now going around begging Nigerians to forgive, that the man says you forgive. No, you should have been a Nigerian president in the first place, not trying to. The reasons why Nigeria was not overrun by the Fulani militiamen was just because they don't have numbers. And another thing that helped Nigeria was our diversity. Our diversity is our strength. And that's why, even though Buhari is no more in power, you could see that ethnic cleansing action continued. Only last month did the president go to Benue, and nothing could happen. It was only when the president asked, why are there no arrests, that in 48 hours we saw arrests. What does that mean? It tells you that Buhari has so much Afghanistan, our army, that they could see Nigerians being killed and they keep quiet. It only took the admonition of President Tinubu for us to not see arrests occur within 48 hours. This is Buhari's legacy.
All right. Let's now move on to his leadership. Do you think Buhari's death leaves a leadership vacuum in the North ahead of the 2027 election? If yes, why? If no, why not?
I don't think so, because you can see now, even to tell you that Buhari's leadership was bad, Tinubu has come in and continued some of Buhari's leadership policies. And of course, Buhari's party, the CPC, the members are not happy with Tinubu continuing with Buhari's policies. What have they done? They have now acquired the ADC, and ADC is right now being used as a strategic staging station to depopulate the APC. And that's why, if you understand that the issue about the coalition is, yes, the first stage, depopulate the APC and put them in the ADC, and later on, if a platform is now organized for election, everybody will now leave the ADC and come into that platform. Because the way it is right now, Peter Obi will never ever be engaged in a dollarized primary with Atiku or anybody. And don't also forget what we're doing. due to Buhari's weaponization of nepotism, some of them now are thinking that it is okay for Tinubu to be succeeded by a Yoruba man. It's not okay. Nobody will accept. So if we will not accept Tinubu to be succeeded by a Yoruba, why are you now seeking that the Northerners succeed Buhari? This is the problem. This is all part of Buhari's legacy. And I say it is due to Buhari's use of subjugation to try to intimidate the rest of the country that those people in the north who are with Buhari think that the country is so fully intimidated and subjugated that nobody will talk. We would not say that. Okay. The presidency is only in the south for only 2 years. Yet, those who work with Buhari are seeking to take it back to the north. This is how bad the Buhari's legacy can be remembered for.
Okay, so do you think Buhari's personal political structure, if still active, can influence who would emerge as a key coalition figure in 2027? Because you mentioned
it is already played. Yes, it is already at play because the ADC platform was purchased all full-headedly from Mr. Raf Nwosu by the CPC faction, 100%. Even though the original negotiations were started by people who are close to Mr. Atiku Abubakar. I've mentioned someone like Mr. Ben, Senator Ben Obi, who happens to come from the same Oka where Mr. Raf Nwosu comes from. Nwosu now has sold, that is ADC. But then because of the plotting by Atiku to insist he will now do a dollarized, because he's a champion when it comes to dollarized primaries, Peter Obi will never participate in the dollarized primaries. And that's the trick. So the issue they have now is that of platform. Once Peter Obi is able to organize a platform, everybody will leave and come there, because you cannot do Buhari 8 years and then expect that the Southerners will allow you to now put another Northerner to succeed Buhari. It doesn't work that way. So they need to understand Buhari is gone. What works for Buhari would not work for other people. And that's one thing I think people should understand. We should learn about the inclusion of our heterogeneous diversity in nation building. That's what they should understand. Okay. What works for Buhari would not work for Tinubu.
Okay. So do you think, I understand your stance when it comes to Buhari, but do you think there are potential northern figures who could fill this influential gap that Buhari leaves behind in shaping a national coalition?
Well, because, the issue about Buhari was the last, if you ask me. When the British left, the Fulani remained. Don't forget, the Fulani and the British and the Portuguese were the only three people who came here. The Fulani came in 1802. The Kanuri didn't let them. And they left, went to Futa Toro. They had issues with the Mandinka. And in both the Futa Jalon, they had problem with the Mandinka, the Susu. In Futa Toro, they had problem with the Mande. But when they came to, later on to Gobert, Gobert today is a local government of Sokoto State. Sarkimbawa allowed the man to sit and teach his son Yunfa this new, Sufi ideology under the Sunni Islam doctrine. But what we saw is the Hausas allowing the man to sit was the reason the Fulanis organized to now not only form Sokoto and use that to undermine the Hausa Bokwe states. When the British left, the Fulani stayed and continued their strategy of settler colonialism. But as you can see from what the governor of Adamawa did to try to roll back the settler colonialism, and we in Nigeria are now gaining a lot of awareness about the dangers of settler colonialism and shouting. And of course, President Tinubu, yes, the rhetorics now, but we also demand more action be put. I think Buhari is the last. You will not see nobody who will come to this march and people will trust him as we trusted Buhari as Megaskia. It's not so. We now understand the strategy of the Fulani since the British left. And I think their problem is, yes,